have arrived at Gay Talk Live. I thank everybody that showed up today. We've got a very special show for you here on Gay Talk Live. So here it is, May 15th, and you're listening to Gay Talk Live, episode number 19 for this year. You know, I also want to remind you about contacting your congressional members. This last Wednesday, we spoke with Major Mike Almy about Don't Ask, Don't Tell. It was a wonderful, wonderful show, full of information, full of great information. I think it was a wonderful show. It went well. I was quite pleased. And, you know, Mike, as well as myself, are really trying to push everybody to contact, you know, your congressional members, your House of Representatives, your senators. Try to get Don't Ask, Don't Tell removed this year. It's so very important because it's so wrong. Most of you know that from what Carl Levin said, the senator that proposed the new bill that's in the Senate right now. He stated that, I think he said 75% of the citizens in the United States are all for getting rid of Don't Ask, Don't Tell. And, you know, I was shocked. I was shocked when I heard that number. I was surprised when I heard that number. It's it was definitely a big surprise for me. So anyway, I got a piece here from Mike Almy, you know, because y'all hear me talk all the time, and maybe you're so used to hearing me talk that you might not put too much weight on my words. So I want you to hear it from Mike, and this is a little clip from my talk with him last Wednesday on the Hump Day Coffee Show. Welcome to Gay Talk Radio, Mike.
Thank you. Good to be here today.
So you're in the Washington, D.C. area now, huh?
I am in Washington, D.C. area. I've been here for a couple of years now, and then been actively involved with the whole movement to repeal Don't Ask, Don't Tell, at least in the public forum for probably the last couple of months or so. There's just a great deal of momentum going on right now to finally get this law overturned. And I'd say probably the most that momentum started in January with the State of the Union address when President Obama mentioned repealing Don't Ask, Don't Tell this year. And then shortly thereafter when Secretary Gates and Admiral Mullen went to testify before the Senate about a week later and said that it was time to repeal Don't Ask, Don't Tell. Since that time, there's just been tremendous momentum and a great deal of lobbying efforts, grassroots efforts, certainly a fair amount of media attention focused on this issue. And it's culminating, or hopefully will culminate this summer with the votes in the House and the Senate to finally repeal Don't Ask, Don't Tell. So it's very much a hot topic right now.
I was pretty excited when I heard about that Military Readiness Enhancement Act that I guess Lieberman and Carl Levin and them guys put forth.
Absolutely, yeah. That's the actual name of the bill in the Senate. Well, it's the same bill or the same name in the House and the Senate to actually repeal Don't Ask, Don't Tell. We've had a bill in the House for about I think it's about 4 or 5 years now, which gets reintroduced in every new Congress. And we're in the 111th Congress right now. So Representative Patrick Murphy from Pennsylvania has been the lead sponsor of that in the House. And right now we're about 192 co-sponsors. So that may have changed a little bit from yesterday after Lobby Day. We may have gotten a few more sponsors. And then, as you said, Senator Lieberman, alongside with Senator Carl Levin, who's the chairman of the Senate Armed Services Committee, they sponsored a bill in, let's see when that was, early March, so it's been about 2 months now, to repeal it on the Senate side. And that was significant because that is the first bill that we've had in the Senate. And right now it looks like we're up to, before yesterday we had 26 sponsors in the Senate. And it looks like we've gained about another 3 or 4 sponsors in that, co-sponsors in the Senate. So we're up to around 30 co-sponsors in the Senate, which is roughly a third of the Senate. So that's a fairly significant number there.
Wow. So what on this numbers thing? What like when they say they're going to have, they want co-sponsors. What's the significance of that?
That means that that particular senator or that representative has formally gone on record or put their name against a particular bill, which means that they support that bill. In this case, their bill to repeal Don't Ask, Don't Tell. Now we certainly have some other senators and other congressmen and women who have lined up who've told us that they're going to vote for it, but they want to take a little less high-profile position. In other words, they don't actually want to sponsor it, but they will still support it and still vote for it. So actually sponsoring, putting your name against a bill and sponsoring it just shows that you are 100% committed to making that piece of legislation become law.
They don't have to have like X number of sponsors to get it to the floor or anything like that.
Well, correct. Yeah, I mean, there's certainly not a hard and fast number for sponsors, but there is as far as actual firm votes, and so that's what we're doing right now. We're taking the number who've actually sponsored the bill, along with the ones who've told us that they will vote for it, and we're counting all those people, as well as trying to encourage more senators and more representatives to support this, to vote for it. So we're in that process now of basically shoring up those votes to ensure that we have the right number. And in the House, it's I think it's 217. It's changed a little bit lately, but we need 217 votes to get a bill into law, or to get a bill passed in the House. And in the Senate, it's a little bit different over there. They're going to try and attach it to the defense authorization bill this year, in which case they would just need a simple majority of senators, or 51 senators, to get that into law.
Okay. All right. That's interesting. And I heard the deadline is May 24th. If they don't get something on that defense budget.
Well, sure. Well, that's one of the dates that's coming up. On the House side, May 19th is what they call the markup. That's where they actually finalize the bill itself, get all the attachments to the bill, and that's where they put it in its final format before it goes to the floor of the House for an actual vote. So that will happen on May 19th, and then the House of Representatives will actually vote on that probably within a week or so after that. And in the Senate, same thing. It's about a week or two delay from the House. It looks like it's around May 24th, the markup of the bill in the Senate, and then they'll vote on that bill probably the end of May, early June. So it's a fast coming date. It's rapidly approaching, and so that's why there's been such an intense effort on lobbying and grassroots movement, and certainly media awareness on this issue, to try and get a lot of public support, to try and persuade and pressure some of these House Representative members and senators who support this bill to finally repeal Don't Ask, Don't Tell.
Awesome words from Major Mike Almy. Folks, you've heard me say it many times over the last couple of weeks that we need to get this done. I was shocked. I hadn't heard that date about the 19th. That's only 4 days away. I got to toot my horn a little bit here, because I sent email to both of my state's senators, and also to my area House of Representative member. And, I got back the standard form letters, which I asked them not to do, but that's what I got back. So I wasn't pleased with that, so I decided to call. And, because there's the United States Capitol Switchboard, which, there's one phone number that you can call, and they'll connect you with your senator or your representative or the White House or whoever you want to talk to. The number is 202-224-3121. By the way, I also sent an email to the White House asking them why that's such a cryptic phone number, that it should be a number that we can all remember off the top of our head. If they want to hear from us, they should give us a phone number that's fairly easy to remember. You would think the White House could have something, or I should say the United States Capitol Switchboard, the primary number for contacting anyone in our government, would be something very simple, like 222-222-2222. All twos. That's all we got to remember. Just keep dialing twos till it starts ringing, and we got them. I don't know. Maybe I'm silly, But anyway, so I called. And on last week's show, you heard me play a recording of my call. I'm not going to play that again. It was a very quick, and I was just trying to show how painless it is. How in a matter of 3, 4, 5 minutes at the most, you can contact the office of your congressional representative and let your feelings be known. And so I did so. I called both of them. And in the second one, I mentioned the fact that I was with Gay Talk Radio, and they forwarded me to the press department, or the press corps, or whatever they are. And I contacted a gentleman there who said he would call me back on Monday. He didn't call me back on Monday, but he did call me back on Wednesday. And he told me, very good news, he said the other senator that had not signed on as a co-sponsor yet was on board as a co-sponsor. So now both of my senators from my state have signed on as co-sponsors of this new bill to get rid of Don't Ask, Don't Tell. I'm very proud of that. So I urge all of you, these people listen. You got, and if you don't contact them, they don't know what you're thinking. They're not mind readers. Contact them. Do not delay. If you don't know who they are, you don't know who your House of Representatives are or your senators are, you can go to senate.gov to find out who your senators are, or house.gov to find out who your House of Representatives are. You can. I'm 2 for 2, folks. How about you? I'm very happy with both of my senators signing on. And I want to thank Major Mike Almy for appearing on Gay Talk Radio last Wednesday. It was so awesome to have him. It really was. I'm going to get right on to the news now, articles that I have for this week that I put together. We didn't talk about any of them on Wednesday because on Wednesday we spoke with Major Mike Almy, so we did not have our normal broadcast on Wednesday where we covered any of the current events or news related to our LGBTQIA community. So in our first story for today, we heard about a prison guard that has settled a harassment case lawsuit out of court. A guard at the Pennsylvania State Prison told prison staff that he has a protection order from abuse against John Yannick Jr., a fellow guard, which fueled rumors that Yannick is gay. Yeah. So documents were filed in the U.S. District Court in Pittsburgh, and they show that the case was settled following a mediation conference last week. Terms of the settlement have not been released. And On Top Magazine brought us an interesting story about George Rekers. I know his name is Rekers or whatever, but I call him Rekers because as far as I'm concerned, the man is a wreck. A second escort claimed that George Rekers bought gay sex from him. I believe the first one appeared on a national TV in the previous week, and there are lawsuits now because old George is claiming that he didn't do anything. He didn't have any gay sex. He didn't do anything wrong, and yeah, he's got some defamation suits going on that he's going to be bringing up. He's also stepped off the board, supposedly voluntarily resigned from the board of NARS, the National Association for Research and Therapy for Homosexuals, or whatever it's called. The nutcases, I call them. That's what I call them, the nutcases. And Daily Kos had a great story for us about NOM. NOM, we all know NOM, the National Organization for Marriage. Those wonderful, wonderful, loving people. Not at all. But it's a weird thing because there was a story on there, And with the aid of substantial funding in Mormon churches, we know that they was the organization primarily responsible for the passing of Proposition 8 in California and approving Question 1 in Maine, both of which eliminated the legal rights for same-sex couples to marry in their respective states. In each case, the campaign tactics used were despicable. Of course, we know they lied. Both campaigns sought to convince the electorate that legalizing same-sex marriage would lead to second graders being recruited into a lifestyle of sodomy and depravity. Terribleness. But there's a project of NOM called the Ruth Institute. And as they state over at the Daily Cost on the article, that sounds, innocuous enough. It sounds unthreatening, the Ruth Institute. But there's a little bit more to the story. First, they took a look at the basics. They said any marketer knows that the most public face that an organization has rests on two things: its name and its logo. And one would think that an organization dedicated exclusively to promoting marriage between one man and one woman to feature in its logo some rendition of a happy heterosexual married couple. The Ruth Institute logo, by contrast, is not that. It's a rather graphic design comprised of women wearing old-fashioned dresses. Craziness. But basically, they're stating that they have an organization that is seemingly named after a biblical woman who maintains loyalty to her husband's family over her own even after his death, and encourages one of his relatives to marry her specifically to carry on a family line. Most of us know that particular story is right out of the Bible, and that's what the Bible says. If you're married to a man and the man passes away, then the brother's supposed to marry you if the brother's not married. Anyway, it's kind of a twist on the whole thing, because the president of the Ruth Institute was quoted as saying, "We hear that intelligent women should use their minds by giving priority to career. That taking care of children is for losers with nothing better to do. And we hear that independent women should not rely on men financially. It is better to have a child alone or to be childless than to be financially interdependent with the child's father. We hear there is no urgency to having children. If you haven't found a husband, if you haven't made the time to become a mother naturally, you can always use artificial insemination with donor sperm to become a mother at the time of your own choosing. If we accept these ideas, we lose essential features of being a female human, as appreciation of women's natural life-giving powers, a woman's desire for lasting relationship, and of women's intrinsic delight in bringing forth new life." I don't know about you, but I think that is a very strange statement, and a group that I would want to stay very far away from. Things that make you go, Yeah, last week we heard about a failed car bomb attempt in Times Square in New York. Then the news came out that the feds are slashing terror funding for New York's anti-terror programs. Yeah. Big ol' on that one. Newsweek magazine has reached a new low. Newsweek magazine recently published an article stating that while many straight actors have successfully portrayed a gay person, the adverse isn't true. They are saying that gay actors cannot convincingly play a straight character. As an example, they claim that Sean Hayes His latest leading man performance on Broadway comes off as wooden and insincere, like he's trying to hide something, which of course he is. That's a direct quote from Newsweek. Absurd. Christian Chenoweth, who stars opposite of Hayes in Promises on Broadway, defended her co-star and denounced the Newsweek article in a letter to the editor. A boycott of Newsweek magazine has been suggested. Laura Bush was basically on TV in recent news. I believe she was with Larry King. And she's got a book out that she's promoting, but we were all shocked, at least I was, that the former First Lady Laura Bush has said that she's for gay marriage and abortion. Whoa! Woo! That was a shock and awe. Yeah, Larry even asked her, what does that cause animosity between you and your husband? Do y'all argue about, oh, no, I understand his viewpoint and he understands mine. I was like, wow, Laura, you go, girl. I'm like, wow. I think Laura and McCain's wife and daughter ought to get together, on this one. And she even said that it's beyond a shadow of the doubt, gay marriage is forthcoming, she said. Mm-hmm. Go, Laura. Wow. I was shocked. Many of you know that I run many blogs, and on those blogs I have an automated news system that puts out news from the blog sphere and all over the internet. Basically, I pick up bits and pieces related to our community. It's all automated. It puts out hundreds of articles every day from all around the world that affect our community, and some that don't. Some just general world news and stuff. So, I spend a lot of time wandering around, reading these things, and deciding what I'm going to talk to you about on my shows. And I saw a wonderful article over on Pam's House Blend, written by a wonderful person, and about a wonderful person. And I was so impressed that I had to get permission to read the entire article. So I contacted this wonderful person and asked her if it was okay. You see, last Sunday was Mother's Day. Many of us, I'm sure, remember. And a very, very prominent icon of righteousness was lost last Mother's Day. Lena Horne. Lena Horne passed away at the age of 92. And the Reverend Irene Monroe wrote a wonderful piece about Lena Horne over on Pam's House Blend. And when I saw it, I was blown away. In case you don't remember Reverend Irene Monroe, part of her story was featured in the movie For the Bible Tells Me So. If you have not seen For the Bible Tells Me So, I highly recommend that you do so at the first possible chance that you get. It's a wonderful, wonderful movie. And the story about Irene Monroe and her parents and theirs is just one of the many stories that they tell in the movie For the Bible Tells Me So. So the Reverend Irene Monroe wrote this article titled, Lena Horne Was More Than Skin Deep. And I wrote her an email and I said, Irene, I loved your story and For the Bible Tells Me So, but that's not why I'm writing. I'm writing to ask you permission to read this article you wrote about Lena Horne in its entirety on Gay Talk Live. Goodness gracious, I was so shocked when in minutes I got a reply from her stating I would be honored for you to do that. And so here it is, folks, from the Reverend Irene Monroe, a wonderful and loving person who has touched me. I mean, anytime someone could come out and tell their personal story, it makes a difference. It makes a difference because so many people find it quite easy to gloss over the details. And when people usually tell their personal story, there's details involved, and it's kind of hard to ignore them when they're in your face. So from the Reverend Irene Monroe, the article titled, Lena Horne was more than skin deep. She states, Lena Horne died this Mother's Day at the age of 92. If you are of my generation of Lena Horne fans, your first encounters with the star was her role as Glinda, the Good Witch of the South in The Wiz, the 1978 film of the all-black version of L. Frank Baum's children's classic, The Wizard of Oz. But Miss Horne's breakthrough on that silver screen was decades before 1978. It began in 1943 when Horne was in the all-black production Stormy Weather, where she performed the title song that became her signature tune. With the help of the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, the NAACP, Horne broke the color barrier that year when movie mogul Louis B. Mayer signed Horne to a 7-year contract with Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer, MGM, the first African-American performer to receive a long-term deal with a major Hollywood studio. However, in an era where African-American actors in Hollywood were portrayed as toms, coons, bucks, mulattoes, and mammies, Horne's roles were limited because she refused to play stereotypes. When Miss Horne was asked by Hollywood agents to play mammy roles, she shared in a 1997 PBS interview that her father chimed in emphatically stating, "I can get a maid for my daughter. I don't want her in movies playing maids." Miss Horne discovered her light-skinned complexion and white facial features might have opened MGM doors for her, but once she got through them, her tenure with MGM was fraught with all sorts of racial problems, the biggest one being her light-skinned complexion. "I was unique in that I was kind of black, that white people could accept," she told PBS. "I was their daydream. I had the worst kind of acceptance because it was never for how great I was or what I contributed. It was because of the way I looked." For example, her first screen test at MGM was alongside African-American comedian Eddie Rochester Anderson, who played the happy-go-lucky darky to Jack Benny's eponymous hit radio and television series, The Jack Benny Program. Because her complexion was too light juxtaposed to Anderson's, the makeup department came up with a special shade for Horne called Light Egyptian to dispel the notion that the movie studio was promoting an interracial couple. However, as much as Horne detested how the white show business world exploited her light-skinned complexion, she also exploited the privilege of having it because of interracial discrimination, or in layman's term, colorism. in the African American community. While it is true that America's pigmentocracy began with slavery, many of its vestiges are with us today, where still lighter-skinned blacks are preferred, trusted, and perceived to be more intelligent and attractive-looking than darker-skinned ones. Just look at how American soul and R&B singer Beyonce's career is a crossover success compared to American soul and R&B singer India Aries. In the article, study darker-skinned black job applicants face more obstacles. In the 2006 edition of Issues in Higher Education, it stated that a light-skinned African-American male with a bachelor's degree and mediocre experience is more likely to be hired for a typical job than a dark-skinned man with a master's in business administration and past experience in the field. One aspect of President Barack Obama's appeal to those whites who would give him a listening ear during the presidential campaign was not only because he is a brilliant orator, legal scholar, and Harvard law graduate, but also because his light-skinned complexion engenders less fear, both visually and emotionally. And if truth were told, so did Barack's looks for many African Americans. Sorry, Barack's. During Miss Horne era, the brown paper bag test during her era was used in an application process for admission to many of the prestigious historically black colleges and universities, the HBCUs. Any African American darker than the hue of a brown paper bag was automatically denied admission. But the automatically denied admission. Could you believe that? But the admission process was also included the comb test and the flashlight test. For the comb test, if you were light-skinned and your hair was coarse, or as we say in black vernacular, nappy, you were denied admission. And for the flashlight test, if your light-skinned features were not close to those of whites, you were denied admission. Horne dropped out of high school at the age of 16 to join the famous chorus line of the renowned Harlem's Cotton Club showgirls. The club only wanted tall, tan, and terrific dancers. In 1947, Miss Horne married her second husband, Lenny Hayden, a Jewish-American conductor and arranger at MGM. 20 years before 1967, when the U.S. Supreme Court ruled in Loving v. Virginia that anti-miscegenation laws are unconstitutional. In a 1980 interview with Ebony magazine, Horne spoke about the pressures of being in an interracial marriage, but she also stated in the interview that she married Hayden to advance her career and to cross the color line in show business because she knew her looks and his connections could make it happen. Born in Bedford-Stuyvesant, a section of Brooklyn, and I'm sorry if I pronounced that wrong, in 1917, Horne belonged to New York City's brown bourgeoisie, whom W.E.B. Du Bois called the talented 10th because of her family's wealth, education, and light-skinned complexion. Many will argue that Horne got involved in civil rights activism at a nadir in her career to advance herself after having benefited all she could from light-skinned privilege. A kind of racial anger began to grow in me, Horne told PBS. I had asked myself if I were merely attaching private feelings, disappointments, and resentments to a larger, more critical crisis. Horne was more than skin deep. As an activist, she worked with Eleanor Roosevelt to pass the anti-lynching law. She refused to lodge in black sections of towns, and she criticized the treatment of African American soldiers during the war, to name just a few. While it is true that Horne was exploited because of her light-skinned complexion, and she also exploited the privilege of having it, I argue that all of what Horne did in her lifetime can neither be understood nor judged merely by the color of her skin. Here's a prime example of denigrating not what I say, but what I am in terms of identity from a black woman in the comments of America blog. She was incensed about my criticism of the administration's handling of LGBT issues she calls racism. And she says, wow, the racism is flowing here. I am a daily reader of this blog, but the way that you guys have attacked our first black president is unfortunate. My God, he has been in office for 10 months. Is marriage more important than having a job, health care? I am getting quite tired of the white gays and half-breeded gays slamming Obama after he has only been in office for months. Go check out the black blogs and you will see that there is a true divide in who supports Obama and who doesn't. Irene continues, you see, I can't possibly be black and hold the views that I do. My cultural blackness is erased in her mind by my gayness. Plus, she's keeping score by shade of skin, aka colorism. Nice. Of course, I had to laugh at half-breed on a couple of levels. One, I'm not biracial. I'm the product of two parents who are black, and neither of them were or are biracial. Something that people seem to have a hard time grasping is possible these days. Thank you, Irene, for those wonderful words. About a wonderful person. You know, there were some comments on this article that I had to bring up here. One of the comments in the article had a little more information from a New York Times article that spoke about Lena. And they said that she had to go to Paris, France to marry her white husband in 1947, and she also had to keep it a secret for 3 years. And then she moved to Hollywood in 1951, but blacks were not allowed to live in Hollywood then. Her agent signed her lease for her. The neighbors started raising a fuss, except for the neighbor across the street that sent her a note to contact him if anyone caused a problem, as he let it know that he had no problem with her in the hood. The neighbor across the street was Humphrey Bogart. Again, I want to thank Irene for the wonderful article on Lena Horne, and I want to thank Pam over at Pam's House Blandford for posting it, and I also want to thank the commenter, or Ryan45. Yesterday was the funeral. Thousands of people lined up to mourn Lena Horne's passing in New York City. And we're bidding their final farewell to the jazz singer and the actress. Mourners at St. Ignatius Loyola in Manhattan included her granddaughter, actress Jenny Lumet, former Mayor David Dinkins, and many others. Jenny Lumet shared these words. She was so many ideas existing all at the same time, in the same place, and they were all conflicting, and they were all true. I've tried to sum her up, and I can't sum her up. Summing up really means it's over, and I think she's not over, and that she is quite infinite. In our next story, we're talking about online hookups. People, again, I say to you, online hookups are life-threatening. Well-lit area with lots of people around. Up in the Washington, D.C. area, gays and lesbians opposing violence, that's GLOVE, G-L-O-V, on May 7th issued a second community alert warning people, particularly gay men, about arranging meetings with strangers via social networking websites or telephone chat lines. A second warning because it's going crazy, people. Remember, before Obama got into office, and he was talking so positively about all the good things he was going to do for our community. And I told you people then, beware, beware, beware. If these things happen, we will see an increase in hate crimes. Let me give you 3 examples here of what can happen. Brian Betts, he was 42 years old. He was a principal at Washington, D.C.'s Shaw Middle School. He was found shot to death in his Silver Spring home April 15th of this year. The Washington Examiner quoted an unnamed Montgomery County police source saying that Betts met his killer on a gay networking site called Adam for Adam. 4 arrests have been made in that case. Example number 2, Anthony Perkins, 29 years old, also gay, was lured to the 2900 block of 4th Street southeast of Washington, D.C., where he was shot and killed by someone he met on the D.C. Raven chat line. According to an investigator in the case, Antoine Holcomb has been charged with first-degree murder in this case. Little story about Gordon Reeves Rivers, 47, of Brandywine, Maryland. A gay man shot multiple times in the 2600 block of Naylor Street Southeast in Washington, D.C. A 17-year-old male has been charged with first-degree felony murder in the Reeves case, though police have not offered any specific details of this being a quote-unquote pickup murder. 3 just in Washington, D.C. It's not just Washington, D.C. How about New York? Remember Michael Sandy? That happened, I believe, in 2008. Michael Sandy was 28 years old, an African-American man of the Bellport, New York area. He met a 20-year-old gentleman online in a gay chat room and engaged in the chat with him. Even though he was speaking with one man online, when he agreed to meet this young man online in a dark public park place, 4 young men were waiting for him upon his arrival. Michael Sandy drove his car up there. Some of the gentlemen yanked him out of the car and started slugging him in the face. He ran to escape the beating across a busy road. Witnesses saw 2 young men approaching his car and punching him. He ran across a highway and appeared to be calling for help on his cell phone. 2 of the attackers caught up with him in the right lane of the highway. One of them pursued him further across the guardrail and caught up with him in the right lane on the other side and punched him. Michael Sandy backpedaled into the middle lane where he was struck by a car. Then one of the attackers dragged him to the side of the road and was seen rifling through his pockets after he was struck by the car. Mr. Sandy remained on life support for 5 days without regaining consciousness. He died on October 13, 2006, one day after his 29th birthday, when his family made the decision to remove life support. A wonderful and talented singer wrote a song about this subject and dedicated it to Michael Sandy. The name of the song is Just in Case. This singer, I hope I pronounce her name right, is Anye Elite.
We begin with a tragic story. A 15-year-old boy, described by his classmates as openly gay, was shot in the head during his English class by a fellow student. Lawrence King later died. It happened in the town of Oxnard, just north of Los Angeles. Reporter Juan Hernandez of CBS station KCBS has the story.
Sometimes I want to shout as loud as I can. When I speak softly, you just don't seem to understand. What's going on is something serious. It requires your immediate attention. They killed another brother, could have been your future lover. Watch out, they'll be back soon for another. Just in case you weren't aware, they are killing brothers everywhere that look like you, that think like you, that love like you. Hey, hey, they broke his bones, they beat his ass, they weren't gay, but they raped him anyway. How much longer are you gonna sit and bite your tongue? Are you gonna wait till we're gone? You'll be the only one. What's going on is something serious. It requires your immediate attention. They killed another brother, could have been a future lover. Watch out, they'll be back soon for another. Just in case you weren't aware, there are brothers dying everywhere who look like you, who think like you, who love like you do. What's going on is something serious. It requires your immediate attention. They killed another brother, could have been your future lover. But watch out, they'll be back soon for another. And just in case you weren't aware, they are killing brothers everywhere who look like you, who think like you, who love like you do. Just in case you wanna act like you don't know. Just in case. Oh, yeah. Just in case. Just in case you wanna act like you don't see. Just in case. Oh. Just in case. Just like it can happen to you, it can happen to me. Yeah. Just in case. Just in case it does. Just in case it does. Just in case. I want you to know what's going on. Just in case. Hey, just in case.
Just in case. Be careful, people. Be very careful. With that, I'm going to give you a clue word. Yeah, a clue word for the DVD we're giving away this month. We're giving away 2 DVDs this month to 2 lucky listeners on Gay Talk Radio and Queer Public Radio. It's a DVD of the documentary movie called College Boys Live. It's a true story about collegeboyslive.com. The clue for today is going to be Lena Horne, or just Horne if you want to write her last name, however you want to put it. Lena Horne, Lenahorne. Lena Horne is your clue for this segment. I'll give you another clue here in a little while. You're going to get 2 clues on today's show. Maybe I'll give you 3. We'll see. For right now, you got Lena Horne. Write it down. Write it down on your list of clues, because at the end of the month, you're going to be sending your list of clues to me, and whoever gets most of them right, or the most of them right, the 2 top numbers are going to win a DVD for free. Mm-hmm. In our next article, we talked about Congressman Steve King from Iowa, which I was kind of surprised to hear. But he wants us gays to just stay in a closet, considering Iowa now is one of the states that has enacted marriage equality. I was kind of surprised to see the article. But Congressman Steve King of Iowa told a story about his days in the Iowa Senate when gay activists came to lobby a fellow Republican lawmaker, State Senator Jerry Ben of Boone, for protected status for sexual orientation and gender identity. Congressman Steve King of Iowa said, "Let me ask you a question. Am I heterosexual or homosexual?" And they looked him up and down, and actually they should have known, but they said, "We don't know." And he said, "Exactly my point. If you don't project it, if you don't advertise it, how would anyone know to discriminate against you?" And that's the basis of this. He said if people wear their sexuality on their sleeve, then they want to bring litigation against someone that they would point their finger at and say, "You discriminate." It is an entrapment that is legalized by the END Act, Employment Non-Discrimination. It appears to, and it's in a violation of the individual rights of employers to, at their own discretion, decide who they want to hire and who they want to fire. That we don't need more federal mandates, and we surely don't need a political statement, and that's what this is. This is the homosexual activist lobby taking it out on the rest of society. They are demanding affirmation for their lifestyle. That's at the bottom of this. Congressman King, you're absolutely right. We want the exact same affirmation for our quote-unquote lifestyle, as you put it, that you receive for your lifestyle. Congressman King, you may want to read the Constitution, because it clearly states we have a constitutional right to this affirmation, as you put it. I don't usually use the word lifestyle, because I suppose if you want to put it there, though, that's fine. But just know that if a homosexual life is a lifestyle, then a heterosexual life is also a lifestyle. The fact that you attempt to differentiate between the two shows your bigotry and bias loud and clear. So very loud and clear. Did you know that there's a group called the Rainbow Sash Movement? The Rainbow Sash, S-A-S-H, Rainbow Sash Movement comprises gay Catholics. They have put out a public call for zero tolerance of homophobia in the Catholic Church. Wow! Oh, and that's all about love, huh?
I love you, and you, and you. Oh, and you too. And don't forget him. I love her, and him, and her, and him, and him, and her. I love you all.
That's what we're supposed to do. Yeah. The Catholic Diocese of Vermont is paying $17.6 million to several sex abuse victims. Yeah, I'm not going to go on and on about that. I just thought that was interesting. Yeah. All the best to you and yours, and I want to remind you, as I always do towards the ending of a show, is that we are all one human family. Random acts of kindness are awesome things. With that, I say adieu to you, and all the best.
I love you, and you, and you. Oh, and you too. And don't forget him. I love her, and him, and her, and him, and him, and her. I love you all.
Adios. Have a nice trip. Bon voyage. Farewell to thee.
That's all, folks.
We'll leave the light on for you.